Awoluatuka. Oh, once upon a time, long time ago, there was a blacksmith called Walukaga. Walukaga had a shop in the middle of the village, and he made a lot of fascinating tools, from bracelets for women to farmers' tools. A lot of people wondered how Walukaga made these tools, and sometimes they'd gather around his shop just to look and see how he does his job. He had a big fire pit in the middle of his workshop and cold water in buckets just to cool off the metals. One day, when he was in his shop, a messenger from the king came to him and told him, Walukaga, the king has asked for you. He has a job for you. Of course, Walukaga was excited that the king wanted him to go to the palace and do some job. And at the same time, he wondered what the job could be. But anyways, he didn't mind. He was like, I'll go anyways. So Walukaga shut his shop and picked up some tools that he needed and off to the palace. On his way, he found a lot of friends that he thought really excited how he was going to meet the king, and the king had a job for him. Every friend told him good luck, of course. So when he reached the palace, he found the king sitting on one of his favorite seat, his chair, which was made from the tree stump. And as soon as Walukaga saw the king, he bowed down and said, King, I'm here. Your servant said that you wanted to talk to me. The king said to him, Rise up, Walukaga. Walukaga, you are one of the best blacksmiths we have in the district, and I have a good job for you. The king clapped his hands, and the kingdom servants came with a lot of old metals, scraps, every piece of metal that you might think of. They brought a lot of metals for Walukaga and threw it on the ground for him. The king told Walukaga, in those scrap metals that the servants have just put down, I want you to make me a living person. I want you to make me a man that can speak, walk, and think like us. Of course, Walukaga couldn't believe his ears. I mean, this was something impossible. And Walukaga was like, what? Make a living person out of metals? But of course, you couldn't say, say no to the king. Otherwise, you would lose your life. So the king told Walukaga, the maids, the servants will help you carry these metals to your workshop, and you start off the job. And then once you're done with the job, you bring me this finished man, and when they can speak and do everything that I've told you them to do. Walukaga went to his shop with the metals, and he thought about it. He planned and planned and planned. What can I do? How can I make this man, how can I make this living person that the king has asked me to do? But it was something impossible. He sought out for advice from his friends, and no friend had a good idea of making a living person. Some friends were telling him, okay, maybe poison the king. Other friends were like, maybe run away. So he couldn't come up with an idea on how to please the king, to make this living person. So Walukaga decided actually to go for a walk because he was stressed and he didn't have any plan, any idea, and the king wanted this person ASAP. So when Walukaga went for a walk, alongside the bush, he heard a noise. I was like, okay, what's coming out of, what's in that bush? He shouted, who's in the bush? And in the bush there was a madman. And the madman said, oh, it's me. I'm just here relaxing. So Walukaga entered the bush as well to see if this madman, what he was saying was true, to make sure he wasn't doing something illegal. He found this madman who was just sitting there having a lot of berries that he was eating. Walukaga decided to sit with this madman on one of the stones that was there. But he was still thinking about the king's request. The madman gave some berries to Walukaga to eat too. And Walukaga, when he was eating, he actually realized, he had not eaten in 3 days because he was worried and thinking too much. So because the madman was really kind and nice to Walukaga, Walukaga decided to tell his story to the madman. and tell him, look, this is what the king has asked me to do, but I don't have an idea how to do it, and it sounds impossible. The madman told Walukaga, look, do you know what you should do? Do you know what you should do? Go back and tell the king, before you start off with making this man, you need 1,000 buckets of hair and 100 buckets of tears from the royal family, because it's only their tear that will cool down the hot metals. Walukaga said, oh, actually, that's so far the best idea I've had since I got that request from the king. So Walukaga went back to the palace and bowed before the king and told the king, King, yes, I've drawn my plans to make your request, but before I start off, I will need 1,000 buckets of hair and I will need 100 buckets of tears. The king, of course, said, okay, I'll get you what you need, Walukaga. I'll get you what you need. Walukaga went back to his workshop and waited for the king to collect these things. The king shaved off all his maids, all the servants from the palace, but of course they couldn't have 1,000 buckets of hair. He made all his servants cry to make 100 buckets of tears, but they couldn't even fill one bucket. So it was something impossible as well. So the king asked for Walukaga to come to the palace. And when Walukaga came, the king told him, look, what you've asked me is impossible. I mean, how can I get 1,000 buckets of hair and 100 buckets of tears? Walukaga told him, my king, then if we don't have those things, then we can't make a living person out of metals. You see, we can't make we can't make him. And that's how Walukaga survived to be killed. And as we say in Uganda, Nangao Wenalavira, and that's what I saw all those years ago. Now, the moral of this story is, sometimes every problem has a solution. It doesn't matter how silly the problem could be, there could be a silly solution towards it. Nangao Wenalavira.